John Scalzi said of Joe Haldeman's The Forever War, "I have two responses for when people ask me, how do you feel about ripping off this book? I say, well, you caught me, and they say, at least you're honest. But if I say, I've never read it, which was the truth, they would say, you lying little liar!" Old Man's War is the logical follow-up to masterworks such as Starship Troopers and The Forever War. It details the story of a man who's old, who's joining up with the military on his 75th birthday. He's never quite told how he's going to be made into a space warrior, but he joins up anyway. Why the hell not? There's a mysterious space agency that recruits these people, and they have access to all the latest space technology, which they won't share with Earth. There's this whole thing about how a war with India and how Earth is pissy, and you don't care, do you? Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I will anyway. They take a brain scan of his mind and implant it in a younger clone of his body. That's completely green. Sci-Fi is weird. Along the way, he meets a variety of other old people turned young. I wish I could tell you they all have completely separate three-dimensional personalities that will echo throughout the halls of time. I wish I could tell you that. But science fiction ain't no fairy tale land. I mean, they're all okay. They all kind of have this sassy attitude that allows them to make jokes on the turn of a dime. Kind of like real old people. Of course, there is kind of a theme later in the book about how they're all becoming less human, and maybe the lack of distinction is part of it, but I don't know. There's also a drill sergeant. Do I really need to say more? He's a badass based off of R. Lee Emery, who says things like this. "Who's a Marine?" Two recruits stepped forward. "You fuckers are the worst! You smug bastards have killed more CDF soldiers than any alien race, doing things the Marine fucking way instead of how they're supposed to be done! You probably had Semper Fi's tattoos on your old body, didn't you? Didn't you? Sir, yes, sir!" They both replied. "You are so fucking lucky they were left behind, because I swear I would have held you down and cut them off myself!" You gotta love them. Another thing that's great about this book are the alien races. It has fully delved into alien races with allusions to other ones on the fringes of the galaxy. It has a section about a Lovecraftian horror that made grown men cry, and how these were the nicest and most peaceful creatures in the known universe. The four they go into, though, are the Kansu, an insect race that worships combat and warfare, the Rareri, who aren't really described, are kind of a birdman thing. Then there's the Wahaden, which are basically walking panda bears of death. No, not them. And the Kovandu. These are tiny little people, about an inch tall, who invaded a planet. The narrator describes himself as Godzilla stomping on their houses. Any book that even has a passing reference to the king is ace in my book. There's also lots of futuristic and alien technology that's well explored. Yeah, some of the physics goes a little over my head, but it's described in a believable manner. That's what I think is the best way to do sci-fi. You have to make the impossible seem possible in a relatable manner. Saying, "It's so advanced we don't understand it," will get the drill sergeant called on you.
"Or I will gouge out your eyeballs and skull fuck you!"
And then there's the characters. I know I said they're all kind of the same, but they're funny, and I liked each and every one of them. Or I liked the only one there was. Or something. It makes me think about getting older and how nice it would be to alleviate the suffering of age. I'm only 20 years old, but I hear the complaints of the elderly all around me, how their knees hurt and their pills are piling up, and it's refreshing to me, even as a youngster, to read about some kind of relief from that. I'm curious, what do older people think of this novel? There's also the plot about the main character discovering the technological secrets and going to space, destroying people, and finding love out in the frontier. The ending did remind me a little of the Forever War's ending, but it really didn't bear that much resemblance to the earlier novel. In fact, I would say there's almost no resemblance. It was based more on Heinlein's Starship Troopers, a little of Star Wars, but mostly it's its own thing. It was daring and original, but was familiar enough that it didn't alienate people. Yeah, I get the irony of that. It was creative and made a legitimate point about getting older and man's place in the universe. It portrayed a mostly positive future and a good outlook for humanity. And it lost the Hugo Award that year. Not that that means anything, but still. It also produced a series of sequels that I didn't read. The Ghost Brigades, The Last Colony, Zoe's Tale, and The Human Division further explored this universe and all it had to offer. And maybe they were really good books, but I really loved this one. I thought it had everything, and it wasn't overwritten to the point of being stupid, and I want to keep that opinion of it. And of John Scalzi. That name's too awesome to talk bad about.
And he ain't gonna jump no more.